and pop up some of those poll questions we spoke about earlier on?
Yeah, so if just some admin around that, if everybody just takes a look at the chat, I posted the link for the Slido poll questions and the event code in there.
Okay.
So if everybody just follows that link and enters the event code, then they should be able to access the first piece of that as soon as I can just get it up and running and started.
Okay.
And then we'll start the first poll. So if people can just access that, just make sure that you can access the poll and answer the questions.
Perfect. We can actually go through that. You know,
Paul, can you just confirm you can see it in the chat there?
Yeah.
I'm looking in the chat. Maybe can everyone see that in the chat?
Yeah, Simon, I can see it. It's available.
Okay, thanks, Felix. It's just me then. Okay.
Perfect. Let's go through. Open up Slido. Have a look at some of those polls, and it's just asking you questions, right? Because we're interested. Where are you right now? Are you? What are you interested in from an inventory and a discovery point? Where are you right now? What do you use to track your assets? We're intrigued because I believe we're all part of the same statistics. No matter what it is, up to this particular point in time, we're sitting with, as my slide shows, a lot of different tools, a lot of different sources of information, and a lot of hours needed to reconcile that data. So continuing, how can Ivanti help from a solutions point of view, together with, and here's the expertise that Blue Turtle offers, massive expertise around IT asset management, around the people, the process side of it. Yes, we can help from a technology point, but certainly this is where we can leverage off Blue Turtle to help you with the processes and the actual discipline of IT asset management to help you make sure that you can realize some of this value. So what we're looking at doing is we need to help you find everything automatically. We need to go out into your estate and using different technologies, both passive and active, we want to be able to identify and display and be able to offer you all the data within your environment, right? We then want to be able to aggregate that information from different areas of the organization, and we want to be able to augment that data, i.e. also complement that data with third-party connectors, right? Because we know that these days, especially when we're talking to infrastructure as a service, when we're talking to software as a service, we're talking to customers utilizing Azure, AWS. We've got customers from a software perspective, utilizing Adobe Cloud. We've got customers. All of us here use Office 365. How can we aggregate that data, pull that data in with the third-party connectors to help us make sense of that data and provide those actionable insights? And those actionable insights are really where we are the differentiator, where we can show you, as an example, when we have a look at spend intelligence for software, where it is that you're potentially over licensed or under licensed, or what it is that you're looking at from a financial perspective. What are you licensed to use? What are your financial obligations from a vendor perspective? Can you reconcile that? Very important for us to be able to understand it. And of course, to be able to feed either our IT service management configuration management database or our IT asset management database. So either of those two repositories need to be populated with this rich data to help us with those ITSM and those ITAM processes that are so important for us. And the great thing about our solutions, when we start looking at our Neurons for Discovery, and as has been newly branded, our Ivanti Service Manager product and our Ivanti Asset Manager product to fall in line with our Neurons platform is now Neurons for ITSM and Neurons for ITAM. So we've got what we call a turnkey CMDB, where as we've discovered data, we automatically, once it's been reconciled and once it's been normalized, we push that data seamlessly into the Ivanti ITAM and ITSM products. And that is great. No configuration apart from literally a switching on is required to push that through from a cloud perspective. So we're really, really proud of that. So where do we continue our discussion, right? So neurons for discovery. This is really where we're going to start looking at some of the technology to help us get there. So on this little purple pillar in the, over here, the Ivanti Neurons for discovery, what is it that we're going to be offering? What is it that we're going to be looking at? And I'm just really interested in being able to say, hey, from a passive point of view, from an active point of view, I want to be able to do agentless discovery. That is key for us, right? We don't want you to have to, from a discovery point of view and an inventory point of view, we don't want you to have to put agents out there. If you've got a server sitting within a subnet that has our agent running on it, or it could be a workstation, it could be a dedicated workstation, it doesn't have to be a server, it just has to be a Windows device. We've really got that capability then to say, fine, I've got the agent sitting on here, let's go and discover everything within my environment. And that includes, by the way, as of recent, we've included SNMP version 1, 2, and SNMP v3 with its added security features to be part of that discovery mix. So really, really proud of that. And then looking at our connectors, all the third-party connectors that are also part and parcel of that. And of course, I spoke about our really powerful normalization and reconciliation engines that we will be looking at that. And that's really what our Neurons for Discovery is all about, right? And that's kind of just a flash up to, to show what is it doing. So it's giving you that accurate, actionable, I like that term, right? Asset information in minutes. Literally, whenever we start a proof of value or a proof of concept, which we can also talk about at the end of the session, we do as Ivanti have a proof of value or a proof of concept option or opportunity available to all our customers. But we want you to be able to see that literally within minutes of having your tenant enabled, you can start discovering those assets. And I've seen it real time in customers, in environments, and it really, really is impressive. So we've now got this normalized hardware and software inventory data. We've got that available to you, and we can start feeding our configuration management and our asset management databases. So there's a very clear path of get a server set up, get that agentless discovery happening, and get that data into your asset management database or your configuration management database as quickly as possible. Literally within a couple of hours of opening up and having access to your tenant and being able to configure that. And I'll take this. Yeah.
Sorry, we have a question. If you don't mind me interrupting everything. We have a question from Dilip with regards to third-party connectors. Where they say they are using Oracle as for the higher education institutions. I wanted to know if there's a third-party connector for putting in Oracle data.
When you say pulling in Oracle data, are we talking about Oracle's software data?
I'm not sure.
So just when we do have a chat about the connectors, and we will get there, I'll also talk about the fact that we don't have an Oracle connector right now, but we do have other methods of being able to get access to data that we might not have an out-of-the-box connector for immediately.
Yeah. And the same question from Dilip around AD integration.
Yep, that's fully supported.
If people are not signing into their domain, how do we take care of that?
So from an inventory perspective, that's not really within our remit, but we will understand, especially from an agent perspective, when we do that agent inventory, we'll be able to understand when they last logged on. So we can have dashboards available right now to at least indicate and show whether or not a user has logged on, when they last logged on, if they are active, if they're inactive. So we've actually got a little bit of a dashboard that's available for us to have a look at from a user perspective. And I'll be touching on that as well when I go and have a look at the user connectors.
Perfect, thanks.
All right, perfect. Thanks for the question. Okay, so moving on, we're really looking at some of the demo items we're going to be showing today. So we're just going to be having a look at how we can set the environment up, how we can look at utilizing some of those third-party connectors, looking at some of the normalization, transformation, and reconciliation of that data, and then having a look at our smart advisors, how we can use what we call our smart advisors to start giving us some actionable insights. Show me within my estate all my hardware, as an example, that may need to be re-imaged or replaced because of the fact that I am going through operating system upgrades, or I'm going through some type of software update. And then, of course, the data that we're going to be looking at and how we can transfer that across to our environment within Neurons for ITAM or Neurons for ITSM. All right, perfect. So I'm going to pop into the demo, but before I do that, the last slide that I want to show is information that we've had from our customers. So this is not something that is a statistic generally worldwide. This is information that we have gleaned and our customers have offered for us to present on their behalf in terms of outcomes, right? So I'll just let you take a quick look at this, and this is really about being able to discover those additional assets, being able to look at issues. 80% of issues resolved before reported. Again, the Neurons platform is not only about discovery. The Neurons platform is also about healing, and we're going to be talking about that towards the end. Francois is going to touch on that because that'll be part of our next session. With an understanding of our environment, we're not going to be surprised. We're going to have fewer unplanned outages. We're going to have faster security updates because of the fact that we understand and we realize our estate from the word go. So these are great outcomes. We're very happy that our customers have this, that they've realized this, and it's significantly important for us. So without further ado, I'm just going to go ahead and stop presenting the slide, and then we're going to go straight into our, just put this off, I'm going to go straight into our demo. There we go, put that off there, and let me stop presenting for a sec. Go. Then I'll present my Neurons screen. All right, let me know when you can see.
Can see it, Paul.
All right, that's fantastic. Okay, so let's go have a look. First of all, this is our typical welcome homepage. Just introducing our getting started area. Great little actionable insight for us to start using if you want to have a look at a POV or a POC with us. Getting started with Ivanti Neurons, what they're all about, our new Ivanti Neurons, our spend intelligence, which we'll be touching on today, having a look at our patch intelligence as well for our security customers. And later on, just here's a brief announcement for us, going forward for our patch customers in the audience, or if you aren't already a patch customer of ours, just to understand that coming later this year, within Q3 to Q4, we are going to be introducing Neurons for patch management, which means we'll be able to start doing cloud patch management for you. So very excited about that. But again, from this point, we can understand that there is continual improvement within the application platform. We're always getting consistent updates around what's new. You've got all the visibility around what's happening within the Neurons platform across the board. But we are looking at devices. We're looking at software. We're looking at discovery. So what we're interested in to begin with is dashboards. And I love this aspect because when we start talking to new customers, we're having a look at information that is blank to begin with, right? And as I said earlier on, within a couple of hours, we can start populating some of these widgets that are available to you to start building your own dashboards. And we really do try and make this as simple and as straightforward for you. But the idea is to start showing you some of the important information that we've collected, not only from our discovery tool, but also from some of the third-party connectors that I was talking to you about earlier on. So as an example, I can see immediately, I've got some device warranty information that I've ingested. I can have a look at those devices whose warranties are going to be ending in a short period of time, those that are out of warranty, those that are out of warranty for a large period of time. That's a concern for me, right? Because if I've got a device that's out of warranty, am I still spending money on it? Am I still trying to service it? Why am I doing that? I could be replacing that. And that's part of what we use with that and our Windows operating system versions, etc., and some of our hardware details to allow us to see which of our devices we should be re-imaging or replacing. So we've got some machine learning there that helps us with it, helps you identify those devices without having to do the math, quote unquote, yourself. So these dashboards are very straightforward. You can actually also have a look at asset health dashboards. You can have a look at and asset health deals with CPU UTs. If I've got too many of my CPUs out there that are running at a high percentage, that's a concern for me. There could be rogue software out there. There could be some kind of malware that's in my environment. I need to be aware of that. I can look at organizational assets across my organization. But the bottom line is I can deal with and build out some of my asset data. I've got a lovely one here, boot degradation, that talks to over time how many of my devices are experiencing boot degradation, because I need to be able to understand that that's going to impact my user experience. The longer it takes to boot, the more unproductive and frustrated my users are going to be. But this is a very simple little environment where I can add widgets across the board. I can look at it from smart advisors. I can create my own custom widgets that I can use this discovered data that I'm going to be showing us within the context of a dashboard. And I can have a look at this information in real time. So outside of being able to look at that as a dashboard, what we can then do is say, well, how do we set this up, Paul? How do we get about to the point where we can start looking at, and this is the devices section, where we can start looking at this discovered data. So, yeah, hello, was there something there? No, there was just a minute. Okay, so we can start having a look at some of the device data. We can start drilling into some of this information, and you can see there's a large amount of data that we're dealing with here that has been discovered. And as I said, this has been discovered either through our discovery engine that we're focusing on today, or in addition, as part of Neurons for Discovery, the third-party connectors. So where did we begin with this? And I'm glad you asked, right? Because we need to discover first. So as part of discovery, this is taking a look at our Neurons for Discovery area. Again, nicely wizard driven, shows you where you need to go, shows you what you need to do with very little input from us, but we're always here to help if you want to have a look at that. But what we're doing is we're just going within our organization and we're creating what we call deployment representatives, which just happens to be this little machine on your on your network that is a Windows-based device that can then we can download and install the discovery agent onto that device, and we can start then looking at, based on our global network configuration, we can start saying, right, what is it that we need to use from a credentials point of view? What kind of scanning are we going to use? Are we going to use active discovery? Are we going to use passive discovery? We're going to do a single active sweep, once only within a particular environment. We then have our passive discovery that kicks in, utilizing our trademarked self-electing platform, which basically handles our load balancing, and B, in event of failure. So as an example, if I've got an agent sitting on my network that is doing this passive discovery for me, and something happens with that machine for whatever reason, we automatically fail over to the next designated machine on that network. And we've got that whole, that's part of our self-electing platform, CSEP. That's part of our technologies. We take care of that for you, so you don't have to worry about, in the event of my scanning server or my scanning workstation going down, what happens. You won't have that situation. We identify other devices within the network, and we elect those. We then assign them as the designated discovery server or discovery workstation for that instance. But once I've identified all of the information around SNMP, and Am I going to be using SNMP discovery? I can start adding credentials, as I said, for SNMP 1, 2, and 3. 1 and 2 were just really about community strings. 3 works around actual accounts, that we using against those actual credentials. And then obviously from a remote inventory point of view, I do need to provide a remote Windows credential that has elevated privileges to be able to go out and do that remote inventory for me if I want that rich, detailed information. Of course, the Neurons platform also does with some of the other capabilities, allow us to install agents on the devices that we want to further manage and be able to perform actions against. But I've already spoken about that in our previous session, and that's something we will talk about in our next sessions, where we have a look at Neurons for healing, where we have a look at Neurons for edge intelligence, where we can start getting that real-time, up-to-date information on our devices 24/7. But this is all about getting access to those devices firstly, right? So once I've configured the basic information over here, I would go ahead and I would download my discovery agent. At the moment, it's only for Windows. We will be assigning the discovery agents for our Linux and agent later on, and our Mac devices later on. But now you just literally click on that, download the agent, and have it installed on that designated, deployment representative. And once it performs and finishes the handshake with the Neurons tenant, it'll appear in our list, and you will see immediately that we will start having some kind of an output appear on our discovered devices screen. So this happens in real time. Literally, it happens within a few minutes of us picking up this passive traffic. Now, the passive traffic or the passive scanning that we're using is just listening for our packets, right? ARP, it's a protocol, network protocol that's used, and we can identify this chatter on the network. We can identify from the packets that we are dealing with an origin, the destination, we're dealing with an IP address and a MAC address, and we can start that whole process. There's a whole set of other protocols that we use with the discovery process that I'm happy to share technical documentation to any of those that are interested. If you want to go that techie, we've got all the supporting documentation for that. But we ensure at the end of the day that we do not have an impact on your environment at all. That is really, really key for us. So as we start building the discovered devices into the environment, that's when we can start then having a look at perhaps complementing some of this data with our connectors. So within the connectors environment, this is where we start setting up those links, if you want to call them, into our different areas that we offered to begin with. So these are all fully documented, by the way, on our support sites, and we can share this information with you after the fact. But you can see as your eyes just browse on the page what it is that we're dealing with here. Of course, all the Ivanti products under the Ivanti stacks are included as part of our discovery connectors, but we can have a look at a whole set of different third-party connectors as well. So as we start increasing our support for software as a service, for spend intelligence, to understand your subscription spend for cloud hosted subscription software, we will add those connectors. You can see we've included Adobe right now. I can even have a look at your Amazon Web Services EC2 resources. So all those devices that you have up at AWS, we can start having a look at those. If you've got CrowdStrike deployed, we can start having a look at that data. We can start having a look at some of that security information. If you're in the medical field, we've also hooked up with Scenario, which is also part of our medical IoT devices, and we can start discovering those and ingesting those. Then, of course, there's the Azure, there's the Azure AD, there's Microsoft Active Directory, there's Microsoft Intune, there's Microsoft MECM, there's our new acquisition, the Ivanti Mobile Iron Cloud, where we're ingesting some of this information. I'm not going to name each of these on its own, but you can have a look at and see all the relative information that we can start gaining from these third-party connectors. And off the bat, question always raised is, if I don't have a connector available, what then? Well, we've got a very aggressive connector development program. You can speak to that. Our user voice community pages allow you either directly or via Blue Turtle or via your, to be able to go and have a look at that, raise and ask them to raise, or ask us to raise those additional connectors for you. We literally release about 2 or 3 new connectors per quarter, and those are available to you as an existing Neurons for Discovery client at no additional cost. So that's a really great feature. And if we don't have a Neurons connector available to you, then you can use the generic file import, CSV, and that will help you with that, with that particular process. But once you have your specific connector set up, once you've got the discovered devices set up with your, within your environment, then you can start having a look at some of that rich information that comes across with that, right? So not only are we looking at the devices, as I mentioned earlier on, but we are also looking at the people data. So as I'm creating connectors into Azure AD, and as I'm pulling that data through, or if I've got a connector into Okta, whatever it might be, I can start having a look at some of my AD data. I can have a look at some of that data that is managed, and I can start getting quite a rich reflection of that information. Is the user online? Are they active? When did they last log in? Some of that extended information that is available to us that we can present to you, and we are enhancing and building on the people aspect as we go on. But of course, when we start having a look at our devices, this is when we can start, getting that rich information back from our environment. So if I had to have a look, for example, at my Windows 10 landscape, so let's have a look at my Windows 10 1903 device. We start seeing some information about it, when it was last scanned, some information around, is it being managed by an endpoint device? What type of device is it? Is it a workstation? Is it a laptop? Is it a server? What is possible for me? So this is where I can start having a look at some of my general information. My device data tells me all about this. Who's the assigned user? Who's the logon name? What's the approximate location? We've also got identifiers around location, which we can use, the operating system versions, just general information to be able to provide you that rich data to begin with. Then we can have a look at some of the network details, network device. Are you connected to the network? What is your network connectivity look like? When did we most recently scan you? Do you have any, have you had a vulnerability check? Have you had a vulnerability scan if we've incorporated that as part of a connector? Also having a look at your CPU and memory, your storage information. So this is part of that detail that we provide for you, but of course, there's additional details that we can always look at. And this is the rich information that we get back from our inventory scans, where we can start having a look at any of the details around your environment. So we can have a look at, we can have a look at your ports, we can have a look at your operating system in detail, we can have a look at your network devices in detail, both from a NetBIOS and TCP/IP point of view. We can have a look at your power management details. In fact, there's a rich amount of information that you can start looking at here, and you can even search on those details. So if you want to have a look at memory, if you want to have a look at certain port data, I can start searching for that. And that's part and parcel of what you realize. And of course, the same happens from a software point of view. What software has been identified within the environment, and we do talk to and get data. This is part of some of our machine learning part of our also machine learning. We have a look at data lakes. We have a look at socially available data from either Twitter, from subreddits, and we anonymize that data, pull it in, especially from our patching perspective. But we also allow you to see what the reputation is of some of that discovered software. We also let you look at what licensable software has been identified within your environment, and this actually becomes quite key when we start having a look at spend intelligence, because this is really the case where we can say, well, what do we have? When did we last use it? How many times have we launched this application? How many minutes has this particular software been installed on a particular device? And all this information is aggregated when we start having a look at Neurons for spend intelligence, which we're going to be doing straight after this particular demo. So, of course,
can I interrupt you there before you go on to the next screen? I just want to highlight and support Paul here. What you guys will see is that Paul has navigated on one central place all the time, and he was talking about the SAM team, software asset management team. He was talking about hardware asset management team. He was talking about the config team, but he keeps on navigating in the same place, which means that the user experience is transparent going across the different disciplines.
That's actually a great point, Francois. Thank you for that. And especially when it comes to our service desk and our service desk analysts, we can use the same landscape, the same experience to even help our analysts remediate some of those tickets that come through without needing to use any other technologies. And that's something really significant. We want to be able to present as much information in a single area to as many different role members and players as possible. Thank you for that. So, as part and parcel of this rich information that we gleaning back, what we do want to start having a look at is how can we now start utilizing some of this data within other Neurons platforms. So of course, yes, we've now identified all the devices on our network. We've identified our network devices using SNMP. We've gone through an active and a passive discovery process. We've seen the rich information coming back from all of these types of devices, no matter what they are, and we can start automatically populating other areas of our portfolio to give you that added benefit. So that's what we're going to start having a look at next with Neurons for spend intelligence. So I'm going to go ahead and fire up my PowerPoint again, and we're just going to go have a look. It does come with a little bit of a demo video as part of that as well, so we'll touch on it quickly. So let me go ahead.
Just before you carry on with your video, do we want to raise the other poll questions now? Or do we want to wait until the video is done?
Go ahead, go ahead and raise those questions.
All right, so let's just hang on there for a bit. Let's not give people a chance to actually answer the questions. So let me just pop that into the live chat. So if people can just join the Slido link again. So what we are asking is how you are currently tracking your assets. Are you still making use of spreadsheets? Do you have one asset inventory tool? Is there more than one tool? Are you making use of a combination of asset inventory tools and spreadsheets altogether, or do you not really have any tracking? So that's the first question that we have for that. And then I'm just going to give everybody just a second to get onto that and start answering those questions. And then I'm going to just expand the next poll questions as well. Let's hope I don't kill the other one first time I'm using it. So I'm going to spam the next poll question as well. All right, so right now it stops the previous one. So I'm going to run the first one again. So if we could just have like maybe 10 people just answering that one, so we can just get a general consensus, and then I'll move on to the next question. So 7 people voted so far. Please, if you don't mind participating, it does help us with our event analytics at the end of the day.
Just for the people that joined a little bit later, there's a poll in the chat that Rex is talking about. So you can click on that link and then go and answer the questions that's currently on play.
I'll post the link. I'll post the link in the chat again for those.
Right, and then just for everybody, if there are questions that was submitted in the chat, we'll send out a Q&A with the answers as a response after the call. So we won't let your questions go down in the black hole.
I also see, thank you, Grant, you've been answering some of our questions there as well.
Yeah.
We will take note of, and Francois, thank you. We'll be taking notes of these questions and their responses. And yeah, definitely, we'll be sending them back to you.
All right. So just on the poll questions, we have 10 people that voted. So I'm going to move on to the next poll question, which is just covering some of the stuff that you were talking about. So which of the following things would be of more interest to you? We have normalization and reconciliation of users and devices, third-party user and device data connectors, network device discoveries, hardware and software inventory data management, or just software license usage. So just to get an idea of where priorities within companies are these days. I'm going to give that one a few minutes, and then I'll let you get on with your video.
Thank you.
We need a few more people to vote for us to answer our polls.
Time is getting short, Rex. I think let's move it along.
Yeah, I think let's. That's fine. We got enough people there. I'll leave the questions up for a little bit longer. But Paul, I think you can carry on with your spending.
Perfect. Alrighty, that's wonderful. Thank you, everybody. Let me just go ahead and turn my video back on so you can see my smiley face. But more importantly, is Neurons for Spend Intelligence. So this is now taking and extending the conversation that we started earlier on around getting all this device data, getting all the software data, reconciling all this information, normalizing all the software data so that we can start answering the types of questions that are on screen now. So, what are my strategic software vendors? What software do I have? Where is that software? What am I spending on my key applications? Spend intelligence, right? We need to give you that important information. What software is approaching end of life? That's key for us. That's going to impact a whole lot of different aspects. We're going to need to re-look at what software to replace that with. Is there replacement software? If not, what are the security risks? Do we need it? Are we going to be audited for it? What new software upgrades are available? That becomes really important from a patching perspective and a patch management perspective too. What do we need to be upgrading? What do those upgrade paths look like? What are the expenses around those? If we don't have maintenance contracts, do we have maintenance contracts? And then what applications can we reclaim? What applications aren't we using, or do we use really infrequently that we can start having a look at how to reclaim? And that's really what we're doing, with that. So this is saying, what did you quick track? Purchase history, upcoming license renewals, ongoing spend. What are we spending, on a quarterly, yearly, even on a monthly basis? How can we manage that? What are our overspend issues? And can we look at automated reclamation? And we can. The great thing is, if you're already a Neurons for ITSM customer, previously known as Ivanti Service Manager, there's no reason why you can't identify that there is a reclamation and automatically raise a request for that software to be removed and have our endpoint management tool remove it automatically. And that's what we call end-to-end automation that we'll also be discussing in later sessions. So at the end of the day, really what we want to do with Spend Intelligence is exactly to be able to provide you with those software insights based on your software list, application spend for both on-premise, cloud, and edge environments. And coming soon, by the way, also infrastructure as a service. We will be incorporating that into Spend Intelligence. So being able to really allow you to understand how we can improve your operational spend, your asset visibility, your utilization, and overall your costs. And that's actually quite important. So what is it going to provide us? What is this aspect that we are looking at? So we need to understand the installed software on devices, and that actually comes from, as we've already seen, that comes from Neurons for discovery. I can have a look at my product usage. I can have a look at end of life data. I can have a look at software in use, software that's been prohibited. We have a fully documented SKU and software library that we make available to you to do SKU comparisons against what's installed in your environment versus what's part of your Microsoft license agreement. As an example, we do have, there we go, license summary imports from Microsoft as an example, and soon coming from other vendors, but we can also allow generic CSV imports with license information. We provide templates for those CSV imports so that you can also incorporate some of your other vendor software for your contract and license management, and we have dashboards around those. Obviously, financial summaries are key, so we give you those summaries. We also allow you see usage versus purchase comparison, again for reclamation. So reclamation and the optimization around that is key for us. And then of course, how does that integrate into service and into Asset Manager, right? Into Neurons for ITSM and Neurons for ITAM. So that's really what's important here. So the little recorded demo we're going to be showing it. It's around 8 minutes. This deals with a persona. It's a new IT manager. She's new to an organization, and her challenges really are around understanding, getting an immediate understanding of their risk. What is their financial risk? What are the upcoming requirements and obligations from a spend point of view? What does her software landscape look like? What is she compliant? Is she not compliant? Is the organization at a point where they understand fully what their software utilization looks like? So that's what we're going to be taking a look at next. So I'm just going to go through, and we will go ahead and start.
This is Ivanti Neurons for Spend Intelligence. This is the first place where Samantha's going to land when she first logs into this system on this splash page. So what we get is the ability to actually run through the various elements of setup for the system. We've got these great guides on the right hand side that can step through the process and actually take you to the places where you need to be. Now, firstly, in terms of the data itself, we've got the Ivanti connectors. So we've got a wide array of connectors that are available, ranging from EPM, SCCM. We've got, of course, Ivanti Neurons for discovery as well. Any place that we can achieve any device and software information from can be brought in, and we can reconcile that information within our tool, which I'll show you in just a moment. Also, on the other side of that is actually getting those licenses and transactions into the system. So just to quickly show you here, you can actually import the Microsoft license statement. So for those who don't know what the Microsoft license statement is, this is a document which can be purchased from Microsoft. It doesn't cost very much, but it gives you their view of how your estate looks. Now, this can be an incredibly complex document to actually read and understand. So with this document, you can upload this directly into the system. We crunch those numbers for you in the background and remove those complexities and present the information in a much more easy to read fashion. Not only that, we know about Microsoft SKUs and the RRPs that live behind them. So actually what we do, if you don't have any of your cost information in there already, we'll immediately populate that on the screen. So Samantha's got these 2 steps to run through. And once she's run through those steps, let's have a look at where we get to. So I'm going to flick across to Software Insights first of all. So probably one of the first things that Samantha's going to want to look at is, how does my software estate stack up? Now, when presented with the software insights portion of the tool, we see all of that information right in our face, including the one of the most pertinent pieces of information, that is our strategic vendors. If we go and have a look at Apple, for example, we can drill straight in there and we can see exactly what Apple products are being used, and we can see which machines they're installed on. So if I was to click on there right now, that would bring me back a list of all of those machines where that's currently installed. So great, okay, let's have a look at the licensable software itself. Samantha's interested in what's going to cause the business risk. So in terms of risk, let's have a quick look at end of life. So Samantha can see here that we've got a number of applications running, actually quite a few OSs on those machines installed that are actually end of life. Yeah, they're not receiving any security or patch updates, and they present the plain security risk to our business. So now she can understand what pieces of software these are and which machines they're on. Again, the numbers are clickable and we can see which devices those are. So you can export those, send them to the IT team and get that problem resolved. Also, looking across the right-hand side here, we have the ability to reclaim software from machines. So what we're going to do is actually tell you all of the applications which haven't been used in some time and give you the opportunity to reclaim. So at the moment, this will send a ticket to ISM to get a member of the technical team to do that uninstallation. And not only that, ISM can build in the workflow to actually go and do that automatically. So that's available right now. Okay, so Samantha has been tipped off that there are many different editions of Visual Studio that have been installed in the environment. Now, she knows for a fact that we only buy licenses for professional. Okay, so if we actually have a look at this, we can immediately see, oh, right, okay, we've got enterprise, we've got premiums, we've got test professionals and ultimates. We only buy professional. This is a bit strange. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go and have a look at License Manager. So immediately Samantha sees that licenses tile up the top there, inviting her in to have a look. But before I move on to that, here is your overall visibility. Look, immediately we've got all of this information from the MLS that's been imported about how Microsoft is stacking up and what that's costing us on a month-by-month basis. So we can hover over here and see exactly what's outgoing from the business at each particular point in time. So let's drill into this story a bit more. Visual Studio. So let's have a look here. Let's go and find Visual Studio from our list of licenses. This is a summary of all of the licenses that we've purchased, whether they be subscriptions, maintenance, or the actual base licenses themselves. And immediately Samantha can see, look, I was right. I was absolutely right. We only purchase professional. So we've got a problem here, okay? We're going to drill into this product a bit further. So let's zoom right in on the product, and we can see straight away from our comparison view all of these installs, where we've got numbers of installs, and we can also see how many licenses that we have available. Now, a very quick glance, Samantha can see that, well, actually, if I was to consolidate all of these installs that we have, these 34 installs to the right license, we have 54 licenses, then we'd be good, and we'd still have some to spare. So not to despair, we can solve that problem. And also, not only that, look at the total license cost. Okay, so we purchased too many licenses here for the number of installs that we've got. Well, actually, if you do the math, that's $39,000 that can be saved right here, right now. Okay, so this immediate value that's coming straight back to Samantha. Not only that, we've got this unresolved feature. So unresolved is where you have not purchased a base license for the product, but you've purchased maintenance or upgrade on something you don't even own. Now, software vendors are more than happy to sell you software as an upgrade, as a maintenance when you don't have a base license. They won't check. Yeah, they'll quite happily sell it to you. So this is pointing out any mistakes that have been made that need to be rectified. So moving on. Let's have a look at some of the renewals, so, some of the expirations and renewals. So Samantha remembers seeing this big number of expirations on the left-hand side here. So let's go and drill in a bit further and see what's going on. So having a quick look on here, I can immediately see, whoa, hang on. there is this Microsoft contract that is due to expire very soon, at the end of this month, actually, just before Halloween. Very scary. So let's have a look at what's contained within that contract. Oh, wow. Okay, this is our SQL servers. Now, there's only one thing that's worse than SQL servers going down, and that's not being licensed for them. So we need to jump on this pretty quickly. Yeah, Samantha's already got the information she needs to go and proactively resolve this problem before it hits her head on. She can already see that, well, if we look at the contract value, we're looking at spending around about $52,000 to get this renewed, possibly a little bit more because this is coming to the end of its life. All right, so looking further on, let's finish off with a bit of spend. She's noticed this fantastically huge amount of spend that's been made in the year to date. So what's making that up? Oh, right, here we go. Office 365 is right at the top there, and we're spending around about 4 million on our Office 365, and that's been increasing over time. Now, the great news is this one doesn't expire until June 30th, 2021. So she can breathe a sigh of relief knowing that we're okay until next year.
Perfect. So I hope that gave you, let me just make sure I'm not muted. I'm not muted. Good. I hope that gave you a keen insight into what it is that we can offer from a software license compliance, perspective. And we're happy, as I've seen in the chat. If you've got any concerns around, how this discovery process and how all this data traffic's been handled, certainly we can discuss that in more detail. But Spend Intelligence, we're seeing some really good traction in the market right now from customers that don't have mature software license, processes in place. You mid-maturity, and you just need to get that idea. You just need to get that understanding in terms of your software spend and how to manage it, and that's exactly what Spend Intelligence does. Just to continue very briefly, I want to, before I hand over to Francois, is to have a look at all the information we've spoken about thus far, correct? And being able to then look at where we utilize this further, right? So when we start having a look at all the discovered data from Spend Intelligence, all the discovered data from our Neurons for discovery, with all the added connectors, and we've pulled all this data through, we're basically using our Neurons data services to do that transformation, reconciliation, and normalization across the estate. So we only have one source of truth. We have, when we're looking at a device with serial number 1234, all the associated information with that device might come from separate sources, but we're looking at a single device that is then, with its associated device details and software details, and together with the Spend Intelligence contract information, that is all being basically pushed across through to the Ivanti ITSM or the Ivanti ITAM product, so that we can have a look at and then work within the tool to then facilitate full IT asset management within the particular platform. So literally, it's a three-step process with very little configuration that happens from a customer perspective. We just make sure all the tenants are aware of each other. We turn on a simple configuration within Neurons for ITSM. It's part of a workspace that is configured, and it just ingests that information, automatically for us from cloud to cloud. So when we start having a look at ITAM, so now known as Neurons for ITAM, previously known as Ivanti Asset Manager, what we're really wanting to do, and I think the key bit over here is the complete lifecycle management. That is important for us. Yes, we've got all this rich data coming from some of our other areas, but what is important for us to understand is what is that end-to-end life cycle of that asset from beginning to grave, and that's something that we can certainly start looking at from a platform perspective. So the key pain points we've seen our customers experiencing is that visibility that I've spoken about. We've covered that now with discovery, asset costs and cost allocation against different organization units. We need to manage that. We need to be in a position where our IT financial management is up to date from an IT asset management perspective, and we can certainly, and we do take care of that within application. Again, we've spoken about our software regulatory and security compliance, making sure we are compliant across the board, when it comes to audits, having a positive user experience at the end of the day. And this is also quite important from an ITAM perspective when I have users that want to procure additional equipment or they want to make some kind of asset request. We need to make sure that they can do that, anywhere, anytime these days from any location using their mobile devices or their laptops or their iPads, whatever it might be, to be able to interact and to be able to raise those requests and understand the status of those requests. And then, of course, to be able to scale the business with that information we have, as a result. And then looking at IT as a service chargeback, right? If we've got all the information around our service costs and we have a full understanding of how that is divvied up, then we can start managing our fiscal responsibilities a lot better from an IT asset management perspective. So from a tool point of view, we have a full asset repository, as I mentioned earlier on, that is now populated with our Neurons for discovery. Or if you're not a cloud customer, yes, we do have on-prem discovery tools that I believe Grant also answered as part of that. So if you're not cloud, then we can also start having a look at some of those other aspects. But we can start building up a product catalog for you from that asset repository. We start looking at managing your stock. Stock management becomes quite important, especially when you're offering online capabilities around online requests. We want to be able to check stock, make sure stock's there, go through an automated requisition process if we're out of stock, make sure our stock levels are being maintained as time goes on. And then obviously looking at procurement tracking, and that ties into that. So once I've got stock management linked into procurement tracking, that is tied that's tied down to contract linking as well. So I've got full visibility across all my contracts, across all my different vendors, and I'm linking those up obviously to my procurement cycles, right? I can procure outside of contracts rather, but I do want to understand what that is. And then having a look at that total cost of ownership across the board, being able to, as I said earlier on, also look at our vendors, manage our vendors end to end, and then having a look at some of our barcode scanning capabilities. So this is really, in a nutshell, what we're getting out of the application, and all the product capabilities as they are being enhanced. And we're doing a lot of work, by the way, on barcode scanning to also support offline barcode scanning, to be able to support reconciliation barcode scanning, when you reconciling assets, especially company assets from a facilities point of view, going into offices and scanning assets, scanning doors, scanning the actual office code, scanning all the equipment within the office, and being able to reconcile that, and then take on asset barcode scanning as well is also coming this year. So a lot of work is being introduced into that element, and I do understand that we are slightly short on time, but I do want to take us through the next portion with Francois. Francois, I think are you good to go?
Yeah, I'm good to go. Can you see me?
I can see you in your fish tank.
Do you see the turtle swimming? I feel drowning.
I see the turtle swimming around you, Francois.
Right.
Just before we start on that, Francois, if we do have a full demonstration available for the Neurons for ITAM product. There's full spreadsheets available, for that as well, or PDFs rather, and PowerPoint presentations, that we can share with you after the fact. But let me not steal Francois' thunder any longer. Francois, thank you very much, and over to you.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks so much for all that. That's a lot of content to take in. Thanks for the opportunity for everybody being on the call. I'm going to share my screen, and there's a couple of content that I just want to share and context which I believe is having a big impact around asset management. But first I want to show you guys, there's a big talk in the market around low code, no code and pro code, where you actually allow business analysts to create workflow. So what you'll see on the screen is obviously low code is defined. It does not require the developer to manually type out the code that powers an app. Pro code, it consists of a trained software engineer manually. The reason why I'm putting this up is Ivanti has already implemented the low code, no code, pro code capability within their software. So looking at, just as a quick demo, this is basically a workflow that you see here that doesn't allow me to go and program anything specific on this workflow. I can create new flows within Ivanti, and what you see here is a purchase order flow that's out of the box standard with Ivanti. So Ivanti also comes with a purchase order capability where you can actually create a PO and add multiple line items to that PO. Now, if I want to add an approval process here, I can go to my list of items here on the left-hand side, and I can go and say I want to put in an if statement over here. I want to say if it gets rejected, then I want to say whether it's false or not or true, and I can extend this flow out of the box. So the reason for this slide is just to show you that there is no low code, no code capability already built into Ivanti. All right. Second is, at the moment, because of the working from home, everybody is starting to work from home. It's got a big impact on managing your assets, right? How do you keep track of all those assets that's in use? Because now you sit with a scenario where people are using their own laptops, they're using their own desktops. It's adding a lot of risk to your environment or to your business. Does your work from home remote devices present a new security risk? Of course they do, because there's now going to be rogue devices, which are devices that cannot be discovered on your network. And as well, there's software that's installed on the remote user that's not allowed to be used within your organization. So a lot of these concepts are new and some of them might be old, but it's key to understand that there's a lot of added risk that comes with this. And the endpoint discovery from Ivanti is actually supporting this in the sense that it highlights within the dashboards rogue devices, devices with products and software that's installed that's not whitelisted. And what we mean by whitelisted is that it is not an approved software package that must be installed on the actual device of the user, right? So there's a lot of added risk that comes with this. And then also, unauthorized applications, what I already noted. Then the second concept that I want to bring forth, and it's something called asset sweating. Now, I know a lot of people don't know what asset sweating mean, but what it ends up meaning at the end of the day is that I've got a server that's running multiple applications and it's not consuming a lot of resources. And what they then do is they actually sweat that asset by decommissioning some other servers, putting a lot of more load on this one server. And what happens is also is that if the server gets too busy, it might be a server that's very old. So keep on sweating that asset might come at a risk to the business, because now you sit with a lot of contention and overhead on that server, and that server might be out of life, as an example, which means that it might you might have to virtualize that server, need to look at containerizing that server. So it's important to understand what assets is getting sweat within your environment, and overutilized is another word. All right, then lastly, looking at time, we are going to discuss Ivanti Neurons healing in our next session. We're also going to start talking about automation and powered by bots. And And then the benefits of that is to increase operational efficiency, compliance and security, and gain greater strategic value out of that. Now, the reason why we've got this slide on is that we want to bring an appetite to the table to say we're not finished yet, and there's a lot more to see. And what that gives to you guys on the floor now is that there's a big footprint that Ivanti has now in the market. And the appetite is there to onboard a lot of these capabilities. Paul, I think what we can do here is maybe if there's some questions from the floor that they want to ask, I think Rex, can you maybe open the line and then we can get some guys to answer some questions. I went through this quite quickly because we've got about 6-7 minutes left.
Yeah, so if there is anybody that has a question that has not been raised in the chat yet, you can probably just raise your hand and I can try and unmute you, and then you can ask the questions, or so we go down there.
Yeah, see, while we're waiting there, Rex, there was a question from Anderson about reclaiming unused licenses. What's the business value of doing it manually? Sending out a tech to do the uninstall when you can do it automatically. There is no value. let me just answer that by saying if we can do it automatically, there's massive value that's associated with that, right? So if we do have that reclamation process set up and automated within a customer's environment using our Ivanti solutions, then the value there is quite exceptional, right? Because first of all, I don't have to send somebody out to do it. I don't have to do it manually. I don't have to figure a way of trying to do it, especially with the work from anywhere perspective. So if I've got home users, how do I uninstall software from a home user? It's very difficult. When you start having a look at the Ivanti automation foundation, then we can start automating some of those tasks for you.
Thanks, Paul, for answering that. Are there any other questions from anyone on the floor? If you want to ask a question, just raise your hand and then you can start talk. We can open the line for you. All right, Rex, it doesn't seem like there's any other questions. I think if there are questions, obviously the chat will still be available on Teams. You are welcome to chat further after the session. And I think that's it for today. Rex, do you have anything else that you want to share?
Yeah, just in the chat we posted the survey link. So if you have feedback around the session, what you found helpful, what works for you, what doesn't work for you, just some feedback around how we host and have these sessions. So your feedback will be greatly appreciated. Just helps us make these a little bit better and more interactive. We try to make it more interactive so that people actually participate. But yeah, I think from our side, that's it for today. Thank you everybody for joining us. If you have any additional questions, I see Francois did pop his contact details are in there, so you can either just send him an email or pop a question in the chat. I think you should still have access to the chat as well. The recording will be made available not only in the chat. I don't know if everybody will be able to download it, but we will also be sending everybody out the link to the presentation deck pieces and the recording that we did for the event. But I think if anybody else has anything else to add, I think we must say thank you for everybody for attending the event, and hopefully you'll join us for the next one.
Thank you. Thank you everybody for attending.
Thanks everybody.
Thanks everybody, and have a good week. And for those who are going on school holidays, enjoy the school holidays.